Very little can be found about this occurrence except for one line of text on the censorship fandom wiki page about Iran. It is claimed that the episode Bazen, or pool in English, was banned for some reasons. Perhaps only those who censor television in Iran know what's behind this one. The ties between Pattern Mat and the Islamic Republic of Iran run deeper than just censorship. In 2013, a bootleg episode featuring characters named Khangul and Mongul was produced with a striking similarity to their original counterparts. I'll leave it to you to judge how well they managed. Paeteo wa Maeteo is the South Korean dub of the show. It seems that only older episodes were dubbed this way. Compared to the Dutch dub, the characters speak much less, with grunts and other vocalizations prevailing. Interestingly, the fandub wiki also mentions a North Korean dub existing, but I was unable to find any other information about this version. The episode Prácka features a scene containing a statue that depicts a woman's bust. As the entry reads, the statue's breasts are nude, and this is likely the only nudity to be seen in the show. In hindsight, this is probably the same statue that was mentioned to be blurred on the Wikipedia page as we saw in part 2 of these Iceberg videos. Curiously, this event was removed from that page since the making of part 2. Another point of interest is that the statue is clearly human, meaning that humans exist in the Pattern Mat universe. Next to this statue, Pattern Mat appears so out of proportion that it calls into question whether or not they themselves are human. Their heads are comically big and their limbs very short. Could they be extraterrestrials or a further evolved part of humanity? When I first watched Pattern Mat as a child, I remember already wondering about the world they live in, and specifically why it's so empty. We never see any other characters in the show, even when they go out on the street or to a shop to buy supplies for their adventures. A possible explanation for this emptiness is the post-apocalypse theory. It states that Pattern Mat live in a world set after some large-scale disaster, like war or widespread disease, where humanity's numbers have dwindled to the point where humans are now very rare to non-existent. This also explains why the two regularly move to different locations as seen in episode 1 of this Iceberg. However, the theory also has some shortcomings. Pattern Mat still use money to buy goods, as seen in Dielna, Trezor and Kolečka, and the streets we see them on are not as overgrown with flora as one would expect from a post-apocalyptic world, unless all episodes happen to take place just weeks after the event. These two entries are likely from the Lubomir Benesh interview we cited in episode 1. The interviewer asks if Benesh ever considered giving the duo voices, to which he more or less responds that it didn't fit because Pattern Mat are grotesque, by which he probably means strange or bizarre. He also mentions that the inclusion of female characters was considered, but that this too was deemed unfitting. The Dutch dub is of course an exception to this, and for me personally the show would not have the same impact without the masterful voice work of Simon van Leeuwen and Kees Prins. At the end of the enigmatic episode Playing Cards, Pat and Matt believe they kill a fly that had been bothering them earlier. However, a piece of text in the credits sequence reveals that no flies were harmed in the making of the film, which is then followed by the very same fly landing on screen. Indeed, a closer look at the moment the comically falling anvil supposedly impacts the fly reveals that it flew away in time. Interestingly, there is also a fan-made version of the credits sequence on YouTube. On the 15th of February 2020, a post was made to the Ayatology blog about repurposed sets. It reveals that some props from the show, including a fountain and two models of Pat and Matt's countryside cottage, were borrowed from other films also made by Lubomir Benesh. The old model of the cottage collapses in the episode Dashed, but was still around some years ago, as evidenced by a comment under the blog post with an image of it. Beyond this, a pen the two neighbors frequently used to measure or draw plans is originally from the 1977 short Akkurat, that features it being used in a cosmetic procedure. As mentioned in part 1, AIF, the second studio to produce Patamat, went bankrupt in the late 1990s partly due to the death of Lubomir Beneš, which explains why the episode Playing Cards was only released in South Korea. However, all I have mentioned about the story so far is a severe simplification of a series of legal disputes and accusations. The Ayatology blog concludes that at least one of the quarrels that ended the studio was the sale of Patamat episodes to South Korea, where the show proved to be highly popular. An interview with animator František Vaša further details the disagreements between several people working on the show. They had a terrible row. I believe the error was made by Rod and that he sold the rights for South Korea to two different people. It simply doesn't work that way. Then it went to some courts and so on. However, in the meantime, there was another conflict back home regarding VHS distribution, which got terribly messy. Consequently, it was decided to close down AIF and start a new studio. Aside from licensed Patamat products, a whole world of unofficial bootleg merch also exists. A comical story surrounding this comes from Lubomir Beneš's son, Marek Beneš. While in a market in Iran, he spotted a seller with unofficial merchandise of the show and was told by the seller that Matt was the one with the yellow shirt. Needless to say, this person was unaware of who he was talking to. In the episode Kolečka, or Wheels, Matt comically breaks a piggy bank in order to afford wheels for furniture. When the coins are picked up, a Croatian 5 lipa piece can be spotted among them. An explanation for this currency mismatch could be the fact that this coin is very small, at only 18mm in diameter, making it suitable for filming in the scaled down world of Pat and Matt. Adding to this, in the next scene, Pat pulls out an old Czechoslovak bill of 100 korun, which was officially withdrawn 10 years before the episode was released, making it utterly worthless. There is one episode we know of that had to be reshot because the original version of it was accidentally destroyed. As discussed in the Polish language sister video to this one, František Vaša mentions in a 2014 interview that someone placed a negative film reel into a machine the wrong way around, which caused it to be torn apart. In a subsequent interview, he says Cabriolet was likely the episode this happened to. Without the original episode to compare it to, all we can say is that the characters have thinner, wider mouths compared to other episodes of the time. According to Marek Beneš, Pat and Matt first appeared publicly in comic strips from newspapers published near the town of Roztoky, north of Prague. The characters were drawn by Lubomir Beneš and then named Pan Wolicek and Pan Sedlec, after two villages near Roztoky. Unfortunately, there are no records of these newspapers, so we have no idea what these comics looked like, or how the characters evolved from the comic to the show. A guess could be that they might have been similar to the drawings and storyboards for Ayeto. Račte prominout is Lubomir Beneš's first stop-motion animated puppet film, made in 1974, 2 years before the Pat and Matt pilot. It was animated by Czech animation legend Vlasta Pospíšilová, who also animated the episode Tapety. There are visual similarities between this film and Pat and Matt, especially when it comes to some, not all, buildings in the background. It would be highly interesting to know what happened to the original cabriolet model as seen in iconic older episodes. Unfortunately, no information on this seems to exist at all on the internet, leaving it shrouded in mystery. I tried contacting Patmat Film about the car, but this was unfortunately to no avail, so Ayeto for now. What can be found is that a human-scale version of the cabriolet was used in a live-action theatre production shown in Dubrovnik in 2017. There may perhaps be records of older episode ideas that didn't make the cut, but such information is very obscure if it exists at all. Given that the show is still being made today, I believe this entry is better left for the future. Given the obscurity of these two entries, I took up contact with Marin Pazanin, who runs the Ayatology blog. About Vinari, he mentions the concept of it being a New Year's episode originally comes from Marek Benesh, but advises some skepticism about this claim as he's found no evidence for it. Similarly, it's a stretch to say Jirí Safár created the Ayato gesture, although the idea of the gesture coming from an unnamed cameraman has been mentioned by Marek in interviews, which could imply several people to possibly attribute the gesture to. That's it, everyone. We've reached the